Happy Friday, everybody! It is cold out here. It's switched around. We got an east wind this morning. Water temp's 34.7. I'm holding a trolling rod because I'm trolling through. My hands were too cold to cast, and so I started trolling where I had them yesterday, and I've yet to be able to get two rods in the water. I've got, the last 2 days it's been that chartreuse shad wrap for me, but in 10 foot of water I figured that if I was trolling it, it would dive too deeply. So I have the same color in a number 9 scatter wrap, and I'm just running it flat. And like I say, I've yet to be able to get a second rod out. I put this rod out first. I've had boom, 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 boom. I've had 4 so far, 4 keepers. I'm 1 away from my limit. So I said, well, and I'm probably out of my zone, actually, of where I want to be. And I was going to run back up, but I figured I'd try to get a limit here in one pass. I've only been, quarter of a mile. I mean, like I say, I've been the whole time fighting fish and trying to get lines out because I can't get lines out. Every time I get this one out, by the time I get a second one ready to hook up, there's a fish on it. So I said, well, maybe I'll just hold on to it here and see if I could feel him bite. And this is the longest now that I've been. I'm like I say, I'm holding it. This is the longest it's been in the water without getting bent. So I'm gonna go another 150 yards maybe, and then I'm gonna turn around and go back up and do it again and see what happens. Try a little different line, maybe a little shallower even. Shorten up my leads. I've been running them back 75 feet with a regular, non-deep diving bill stick bait, and it seems to be the ticket. We'll see. It's chilly out here. Although I shouldn't say, the only thing that's warm on me, my nose runs and my hands are cold. I zipped in the pant liners in my CS1 cold snap suit, and I just got a pair of sweatpants on underneath, and I am toasty. These things aren't nice, I tell you. The only way you're going to fish these extreme conditions is to have extreme gear. Between my boat, I got 2 of my trolling reels that are frozen this morning. I might have to start bringing them inside at night. The drags are frozen on them, and the anti-reverse just spins. I had a fish earlier on this reel, and all of a sudden I go to hoist it up in the boat flip it, and the reel lets loose and starts back spinning. I'm like, ah! But colder it gets, the less things want to work, whether it's your own body or your equipment. So you got to take care of it as best you can and be prepared for this kind of weather. See, now it's funny. I'm shocked. I'm gonna cut this short here and then go back up. I'm shocked that I haven't been bit. I mean, it's been that lights out. I've only been fishing for less than an hour. Now all of a sudden I want to show you guys I want to show you guys a bite, and now there's no bite. Real nice. All right, well, I'm gonna pull everything and go back up. I'll see you in a second. I'm threading the needle. There's one of the pin buoys right there marking that underwater line, and I've got a board out on each side. The guys are banging away on these birds this morning up on the shoreline. So I'm trying to navigate through this opening. There's one buoy right there. I'm driving with one hand and filming with the other, so bear with me. There's the other one right there. That's why that was why I'm saying I can't zoom in. But it looks like we're going to be just fine. There must be one missing here in the chain, or I wouldn't have been able to shoot it. The water's down so low that some of them are laying, some of the buoys are laying flat. And some are still standing up, depends on how long their lead is. That one must have been a little bit longer than all the rest of them, and because the water's down probably 1.5 feet maybe, and that's not counting wind fluctuation from one end to the other. You know, we get a big seiche in this lake. I've seen a seiche in the river at my house that's 2.5 feet either way, either high or low, depending on the wind direction. This is a big lake, but it's shallow, so that wind really gets a bite on it and pulls it right from one end and sends it to the other, literally. It's awesome. I mean, it is cool. And it's fascinating how pressure and stuff like that, especially with when you have a moving body of water. First time I ever saw a seiche was in Port Ontario, standing on the back of strike zone, because it was gnarly out, and we were holding off, trying to see if it would lay down once it got light, and that low pressure was so strong it was pulling Lake Ontario. Think about that. It was pulling Lake Ontario to the west, and we had a standing current in the bottom of the Salmon River. It was a hydraulic curl, and it was probably 3 feet. I mean, you could have surfed it. I never seen anything like it. And it was rushing. I mean, that water was getting sucked out. No joke. But what is up, everybody? Happy Friday. For a lot of people, this is vacation Friday because they may not be working Monday and Tuesday next week. So even better, Friday. Right on. Right on, right on. It's been an interesting morning. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you my theory, and we can hang out for a few minutes here while I got a story to tell you first. We were just talking about equipment and the importance of having good equipment that you can rely on in conditions that are challenging, let's say, you know? So, equipment. I got 3 reels that the anti-reverse mechanism inside there, I must have had water in it, moisture, whatever, from being out and being used. And yeah, they're not working. The reels just, there's no anti-reverse. So it's just sitting there. And so I'm down to like one, the one in my hand. And I came across the channel to the west side, and I was going to keep finishing my troll going back home. And so I come across the channel, and all of a sudden my trolling motor wants to keep going against the wind. And I'm in almost a circle now, and it's kicked up to like an 8 because it's got me turned into the wind. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I'm getting no response from the remote. And I'm like, beep, it must be frozen because it's been out the whole time. I have it sitting on my seat. I'm looking at it, but I already have it set with speed and direction, so it's on autopilot. I tell you, that is the absolute beauty and joy of that feature on a modern fishing boat. That feature alone changes everything. This is a demo boat. For me, I have one graph on it at the helm, and I have a trolling motor with a remote, and that remote is autopilot. You set the bearing, and you set the speed. Boom, done. It can't be easier than that. And but it allows, especially one person, to run a trolling spread and not have to be all the time at the wheel. You know, it really is autopilot. It's hands-free. Anyway, all of a sudden mine starts jerking around, and I'm trying to. My remote's not, you know, it's not reacting, and I think it's physically frozen. I don't notice that somehow from being in my pocket, I locked it. And now the boat's damn near turning around in a circle, and I can't get it to stop. And finally I'm like, oh, duh. And I go up and I take the plug, and I unplug it from the power source at the boat. And it stops, obviously. I cut the power. And I'm sitting there dumbfounded looking at my remote, and down in that lower right-hand corner, it says lock. And I'm like, why does it say lock? I don't remember it saying that. And then it dawns on me that I must have locked it somehow. But now I don't know how to unlock it. I figure out to push the button down underneath it where it says lock. I held it down and it went to unlock. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it wasn't my equipment failure at all. It was me. Human error, which is usually the case. And I smiled, and I'm like, you know, that Minn Kota, I would have understood if it was physically frozen. It's freezing out here. This wind is switched around, and now the snow is coming. My guess is that's how sensitive these walleyes are in this low a temperature. They won't feed through these fronts. And the other day for me, it was exactly the same thing. Right before the bite window was just on fire, and I couldn't get them fast enough. And as soon as that front got here the other day from the west, it was a cold front after it had been warm. Boy, for me, they shut right off. I mean, boom, off. In the time it took to unhook one and try to catch the next one, and that was it. This morning, same thing. I started, and I hadn't gone. I got that. Same thing happened this morning. Sorry, technical difficulties. I had the first rod out, and I hadn't even rigged the second rod, changed lures from a deeper stick that I'd been using to the shallow one, and I heard the line snap. They kind of snap out of those Amish outfitter snaps that I use, which I love. I swear by them. They're so much nicer than the old pinch pads that were rubber and all that stuff. It's one piece. You don't have to have clothes hanger or shower curtain hanger. None of that shit. I heard it snap. I looked up, and it freaking JT Ascendant trolling rods just going pow, 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 setting that hook. Oh, I love these rods. I love these rods. For precision trolling like this, from the 15-incher that I watched the tip go snap like this, before it even started, I saw the hit come through the line, through the release, up to the rod tip, before that fish had time to load it up and pull it back and peel it off. That was the big one too, that first one at 19 maybe and change. Some big fish around right now, and I think I found a little pattern that I'm going to explore as long as this thing stays open. 34.5 today. It dropped a full degree from yesterday. The wind switch, though, is pushing that east lake water this way, so it's probably going to be a little warmer eventually, but they're feeding up. You see some of those guys online here locally that when they're filleting them, they're filleting open bellies that are huge, and you can see it. Like I'm not keeping them right now, but I mean, I see them when they come in the boat. They're all thick and healthy. And I'll tell you, they all have a very pale look to them. Almost sickly, but they're not. They're very pale. Maybe it's because they've been in shallow. I don't know. But or maybe they're gorging themselves and it does something to their skin. But most of them are pale. That big one I had the other day had a real blue tail from way out fighting it coming in. I could see that, like, it's a blue tip on that walleye. I'm not gonna say I've never seen that, but you don't normally, certainly here. And today's hero was that Chartreuse 9 scatter wrap that I'm kind of jigging right now. I'm just drifting with the wind. It's pushing me 1.5 to 2.0. Probably a little fast, and I'm just doing little sweeps with the rod, so that lure goes tickety-giddy, and then like this, tickety-giddy. I mean, kind of think of it like jigging. You don't have to give your stuff that action. On a rough day when you're trolling with the wind, the natural wave action gives those lures a little dig and pause, a little dig and pause. And hey, I mean, walleyes are walleyes. They don't give a shit if it's jigging like this or jigging like this. They see it, boom, they're coming for it. And it's when it stops. I mean, they're predators, high apex level predators in this ecosystem. When a wolf pack of them comes in, we know what it's like from the bite perspective. But imagine being a minnow down there of whatever caliber you are. And all of a sudden, 25 or 30 of these things, all teeth, come in out like this out of nowhere, and you would be like, you know, and I imagine there's bits and pieces of minnows falling to the ground, or the bottom per se, the whole time. I wouldn't doubt that one bit. I heard something fall. I'm like, what just fell? It's the cap off my reel, which most every reel I own does not have one of those caps anymore. Yeah, I just can't imagine what it looks like down there when a pack of them come through and they hunt in packs like goddamn killer whales. So they all have this same look to them, coloration-wise. It's crazy. It looks, for lack of a better term, like it looks like they're molting their scales and regrowing them in such a way that the color all kind of goes away, and they're kind of white and naked underneath, and then they start coming back. Like they're very white, and it's weird. I will look at the pictures. I got pictures of them all today. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I really don't know. I guess nobody can really know. Theory is theory, theoretically. All right, I'm going in. You guys have a great day. Oh, there goes this reel. Thanks for joining me. Keep your tip on. Oh, one last thing. P.S. Let me show you something here. I take for granted some days because we talk about equipment you can count on in extreme conditions, and there's nothing that I trust more than my Starcraft. And I am out in everything all the time, bar none. And it's not only a feeling of being safe, it's just knowing that it's going to do its job every time. I guess that's the point of how you can take it for granted. You just know it's going to work. And it wasn't Minn Kota's fault on that one. That was operator error that it locked, and I didn't realize it in time. And I was about to say that the rest of my equipment functions flawlessly every day. My Dakota Lithium batteries that run my trolling motor at full power all day long in extreme cold, you know, which is usually the enemy of any battery. Starcraft, Smokercraft Marine, whether I was in that Phantom a month ago, whether I'm in this Delta 188 DC, which I'm going to tell you right now, with that powerhouse on it, that 115 Yamaha, my boat has a 150 Yamaha on it. And I don't know if it's the weight difference with the 115 or the 115 weight of the motor itself to the 150 weight. It lightens the ass end of this boat up, and it skims and it scoots right along at the same speeds I was going at with the 150. And I love this boat. It's like a suction cup on the water when you're trolling with it, which is what you mostly do anyway. I know there are times where you would troll into it, certainly with a big motor. I did it actually this spring. Bill Morey and I did it on Lake Ontario trolling kings because I could be at 3 miles an hour, so I didn't want to put my trolling motor through that. I just put the big motor in gear, no bags, no nothing, and I was from 2.7 to 3.0 right there, you know. Normally you troll with it. This hull is just a suction cup. It rides that wave. Even when you start coming quartering to full in the trough, actually quartering isn't bad, and that's usually where you get tossed around. And if you're in a hull that displaces higher, the farther off the surface of the water that center of gravity is, the more pitch you get this way, back and forth. Well, the water line's right there. The cheeks of my butt are just about level. My waist is about level with the gunnel right there, the way I'm sitting. So it acts like a suction cup. Whether I'm on Lake Ontario, the St. Lawrence, the Finger Lakes, Oneida, or any points in between. We'll be on Great Sacandaga. There's even a chance this year. I got an invite last night from Greg Yarborough from Smokercraft to come out to Lake Erie and go jig these winter eyes with him. I don't think I can pass that up. This boat will be up to Chameau later, maybe even this weekend, and it may be on Lake Ontario as early as tomorrow morning chasing brown trout. So Smokercraft, Starcraft, they both make bigger boats, bigger platforms, deeper platforms, a myriad of options between all of our brands. Starweld. I like this style boat. I like the low deck. I do a lot of casting. For me, I prefer it. We have a full range of models that go from waist deep, from knee deep, to thigh, waist, and mid waist, belly button. Some of our bigger some of our bigger models, our more Great Lakes centric models, have much deeper gunnels, and a lot of people love that. I like the lower one, and boy, it impresses me every time in every water situation I find myself in, how it performs. The hull here, it jumps you out of the water, and as soon as you get into it, it stabilizes it instantly. Like you feel it as you come up, you're like boom, off we go. And again, I take a lot of that for granted because I'm just in it every day, and I know now what to expect from it. And I expect a lot from it. I put them through a lot, and they handle it. So, all right, we're in the river. I'm looking at all the ducks and the snowflakes. Happy Friday.